In 1500, a Portuguese explorer named Pedro Álvares Cabral was sailing to India. He was trying to go west, but he accidentally landed on the coast of South America. This land, which they first called Terra de Vera Cruz, later became Brazil. The Portuguese, who already had colonies in Africa and Asia, saw that this new land had lots of good things. At first, they mostly wanted Brazil wood, a tree that makes a bright red dye. The native people who lived there were from many different tribes, and at first, they traded with the Portuguese. Sadly, diseases brought by the Europeans and being forced to work quickly hurt the native people. Because they needed more workers, the Portuguese started bringing enslaved Africans to Brazil. This was the start of a very sad time in Brazilian history. By the middle of the 1500s, Portugal was in charge of Brazil, and its economy depended on enslaved people. In the 1600s, sugarcane brought from Portuguese islands changed everything in Brazil. The northeast, especially Pernambuco, was perfect for growing it. Sugar became the most important thing Brazil sold to other countries. Big sugar plantations, called engenhos, were everywhere. They used enslaved Africans to do the hard work. Being a slave was terrible and many people died. This meant they always needed more enslaved people. Sugar made the Portuguese king and the plantation owners very rich. But it was very bad for the enslaved people, and it caused problems with inequality and racism that Brazil still has today. By the late 1700s, new ideas about freedom and revolutions in other places made people in Brazil want change too. When Napoleon invaded Portugal in 1807, the Portuguese royal family escaped to Rio de Janeiro. This made Brazil much more important. In 1821, the king went back to Portugal, but his son Pedro stayed in Brazil. People in Portugal and Brazil wanted different things, and Pedro had to make a choice. So, on September 7, 1822, Pedro declared Brazil's independence. He became Emperor Pedro I and started the Empire of Brazil, which lasted until 1889. Pedro I had a lot of problems as emperor. He fought with people who still liked Portugal and people who wanted a republic. He quit in 1831 and his young son Pedro II became emperor. Pedro II ruled until 1889. Things were calmer, and Brazil became more modern. He cared about education, building roads and things, and helping the economy grow. But when slavery ended in 1888, rich landowners got angry, and the empire ended. The army took over in 1889, and Brazil became a republic. The first years of the republic were messy, with lots of problems in politics and the economy. Section 5. Industrialization and its discontents. In the 1900s, Brazil changed a lot. Cities grew quickly, and factories started appearing, especially in the southeast. Coffee became the new big export, making the economy grow. Lots of people moved from farms to cities like Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro to find jobs. But all this change wasn't good for everyone. It caused inequality, workers' protests, and political problems. Starting in 1930, Getulio Vargas took control of the government. He did some good things like helping workers, but he also didn't allow people to disagree with him. Brazil fighting in World War II helped its factories grow even more. Section 6. A nation transformed, the road to democracy. After the war, Brazil became a democracy again, but then the army took over in 1964 and ruled until 1985. The military government helped the economy grow, but it also wasn't very nice to people who disagreed with them. In the 1980s, more and more people wanted democracy, and finally in 1985, civilians took charge again. Brazil made a new constitution in 1988, promising to be a democracy and protect people's rights. From then on, life got better for many people, the economy grew, and Brazil became more important in the world. Section 7. Samba, soccer, and so much more, a cultural tapestry. Brazilian culture is a mix of native, African, and European traditions. Music and dance are super important, like samba, bossa nova, and the amazing carnival. Brazilian writers like Jorge Amado and Clarice Lispector wrote about important things like fairness, who we are, and what it means to be human. Soccer, or O Jogo Bonito, the beautiful game, is like a religion in Brazil. It brings everyone together. Section 8. Brazil on the world stage. Brazil is a really important country. It has the biggest economy in Latin America, and the 8th biggest in the whole world. It grows a lot of food like soybeans, coffee, and sugar, which is important for feeding people everywhere. The Amazon rainforest is in Brazil, and it's super important for the planet's health. Brazil is part of important groups like the United Nations, and works with other countries to solve problems. Section 9, Looking Ahead, Challenges and Opportunities. Even though Brazil has done great things, it still has problems. Some people are very rich and some are very poor. Cutting down trees in the Amazon is bad for the environment. Crime and corruption are also problems. But Brazil has so much potential. It has lots of young people, natural resources, and a wonderful culture. If Brazil can solve these problems by protecting the environment, being fair to everyone, and having a good government,